to start with the big question.
All right.
What do you think are the essential qualities that make a great therapist?
Well, I'm kind of obsessed with attachment, right? So I think a great therapist is somebody who is able to attune to you and help you feel safe enough to explore and to move into parts of your experience that you don't necessarily know very well or aren't used to staying with, right, or tolerating. So a great therapist makes you feel safe, knows how to do that, knows how to tune into you so you feel heard and connected, because part of feeling safe is you feel that the therapist is engaged with you and also emotionally present with you, not a sort of distant expert that's going to kind of tell you what to do.
Yeah.
So I think a great therapist has that ability to make you feel safe, but also I think a great therapist has a map for the problem that you're dealing with. In my case, usually distressed couples. Has a map for the problem you're dealing with, so that they know how to lead you as well as move into your experience with you and listen to you and help you order it and make sense of it. They know how to lead you forward into deepening that experience and sort of expanding that experience and finding your emotional balance so you can see that experience differently. So it's really a combination of sort of leading and following. But the thing that stands out for me is that to be a good therapist, you have to be able to attune to where people are.
Yeah.
We're very obsessed in mental health with getting people to go somewhere else.
Right.
And the way I was trained to do therapy, you have to slow the hell down and go to where people are.
Yes.
And stay there with them first so they get their balance before you ask them to move somewhere else.
I've seen you do that when you work with clients. You're naturally resonating and mirroring back their body language, voice, and slowing them down. How does one learn how to develop those abilities of attunement, helping people feel safe, being in touch with them?
Well, I mean, I think I was taught through a Rogerian approach. So I was basically taught that I was supposed to be empathic. and I can remember deciding in graduate school that I didn't really need to be taught that because I was already amazingly empathic. And then I watched myself on some tapes and discovered that actually I wasn't really half as empathic as I thought. And the training I received was that I was pushed to actually reflect back to people what they were feeling and what was happening for them and get their feedback, right? We would do it with students would do it with each other, and get their feedback as to how accurate we were and how did they feel listened to. And so, I discovered that I thought I was being incredibly clever and accurate, and actually the person in the other chair didn't particularly agree with me. So I think that was some of it. I think also I started working with disturbed adolescents, and adolescents are honest.
They have good bullshit detectors.
Yeah, so when you say to an adolescent, well, what's going on with you is this and that and something else, the adolescent says, no. You think you know everything, but you don't, you see, because you're just a silly therapist. So I think they helped a lot because they were so real. They if you were going to be with them, you had to find a way to kind of join them there. But I think the other thing that helps me is curiosity. So, if somebody gets incredibly angry, say they get angry at me as the therapist. I mean, I'm a human being, so my first response is like, I don't particularly like it, right? But then there's some other response that goes, oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, what was that about, that you went from sadness to getting so angry with me in just a second? And I get caught in understanding how that happened, understanding the process. And it's a sort of a curiosity of, how did you get from A to B? You know, what happened there? I think I've always been fascinated by emotion and how emotion moves and how it shapes the dance between people and how it shapes people's responses in the moment and shifts it so fast. So some of it is just that, you know, I tuned into it because it was the most fascinating thing in the room for me. And I don't think it's accident that I dance Argentinian tango, because for me it's the same. You know, Argentinian tango is emotional music. It goes fast and then it stops. And then the violin comes in. And then there's fast music and then it stops. And then there's a gravelly old voice comes in, and you don't know what they're singing because it's in Spanish, but it's sad. And because it's sad, everyone starts taking long steps and doing kind of curvy circular movements, and then suddenly the whole emotion changes and the music speeds up.
And your body has to resonate to that.
And there's something beautiful about that is just part of who I was. So I think some of it is my training and some of it is my personality. But I do think that if I think about the EFT training, that because we've been doing it for about 30 years now, we are always finding better and better ways by giving people exercises, showing them tapes, by modeling it, showing people how to tune in, particularly how to tune into pain and fear, so that we can help partners, couples, individuals, families get their emotional balance.
So what do you do when, assuming that you've developed those abilities to be attuned, resonant with what's present with what the client's say, then what do you do with that? Do you share those feelings with them? How do you use them?
I think that people see what's happening with me in therapy pretty easily. I think they see it on my face.
Yes.
They know that I feel their pain. They know when I'm puzzled, I'll tell them, could you help me? I don't quite understand.
I've heard you say that.
You suddenly turned away and went very silent there. Could you help me? What happened to you in that moment? And I'm genuine. I want to know, right? So I'm sorry, I'm forgetting what you just asked me.
Yeah. What do you?
How do you use
that how do you use that attunement to help your client?
I go to where the client is and I stay there with them, and then we sort of start to look at. So right now you are showing your partner anger, but in fact what you're talking to me about is that underneath you're afraid. And what I'll do is I'll start talking about that so that they engage with that fear, and I'll help them make sense of it and order it. And it always does make sense, by the way. I don't have to work hard at that. I have a map called attachment. It always makes sense. So I say, of course, if you are hearing from your partner every time she gets angry that you are just disappointing as a husband, that is so painful. And if you are doing your best and trying, and you say to yourself, there's no way I'm ever going to please this person, and you're flooded with disappointment, I really understand that for you the natural thing to do is to shut down and move away. And so you help people learn how that emotional experience translates into a movement in the dance, an action, a way of engaging others. And then, of course, you can help them own that. But if they start to share that, something else happens. So you say, could you turn to your partner right now and tell her, I may look indifferent, but in fact I'm so afraid of hearing that I'm disappointing you that I freeze up and shut down. Could you do that? And when the person does that, they're opening up and they're doing something different with their fear, and they're owning their fear, and they're doing something really quite powerful actually, which is telling their partner about this other part of themselves and coping with their fear in a very functional way, and also inviting their partner into a different kind of dance with them.
Final question.
That was a bit of a long answer, but anyway.
What advice would you give to a new therapist, recently graduated, not necessarily an EFT or a couples therapist, but what advice would you give them to develop these abilities and become the best therapist they can be?
It's really easy. Get a very good recorder. Deal with your anxiety. Persuade your clients to accept it, and tape your sessions and watch them. None of us want to do this. For the same reason as when I started dancing, I wouldn't look in the mirror. But if you really think about it, that's a craziness, right? Because if you don't look in the mirror, you don't know, you don't see the mistakes you're making, right? But none of us want to look in the mirror. So what I say to therapists is, you think you know what you're doing in therapy? You don't know what you're doing unless you tape your sessions and watch them. Tape your sessions and watch them. And then go and watch master therapists and say to yourself, what does he do that's making the difference? What did he do right there that created that shift in that person or in that couple? Ask yourself questions. Because sometimes therapists say that they don't always know what they do that makes it, when I watch very good cognitive behavioral therapists, I see, that, because I'm biased, that what they do that makes the difference is their way of being with the client. They believe what they do that makes the difference is talking about distorted thoughts. So you have to decide as a young therapist, what are you seeing? What do you think that this person's doing that really makes the difference to this client? Look at master therapists. Use your own eyes. Don't always listen to the therapist that's talking and giving you the theory. And tape your sessions. Just tape your sessions and watch them again and again and again and again.
Right. Well, we've been taping this, and hopefully that people will learn something from that.
Okay. Nice to talk to you, Victor.